Hi everyone, hope you guys are all having a great day today. This video is going to be pretty interesting. As you can see, we're at pretty much a pivotal point potentially, but the market's kind of showing mixed signals, and I'm going to cover that, show in terms of levels, etc., for the technicals. But overall, in this video, I'm going to cover the whole entire market in terms of S&P 500, Dow Jones, and NASDAQ, plus economic calendar, plus investor sentiment. First, I'm going to cover the high level of the economic calendar, just the tidbits, then investor sentiment, then the technicals, and then go into details for the economic calendar. Hopefully you guys like the video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, consider dropping a like towards the end if you find it beneficial. First, in terms of high level for economic calendar, I would say for this week, for April 21st all the way to April 25th, the biggest thing I would look out for is initial jobless claims, which comes out on Thursday, April 24th at 8:30 a.m. and it is for April 19th. Previously, it was 215,000. They're expecting 220,000, so a slight increase this time around. Again, I'll come back to the economic calendar and cover it fully. In terms of investor sentiment, it has been basically somewhat decreased. So 25.4% bullish versus previous week of 28.5% bullish. Still lower than historical average at 37.5%. And then investor sentiment for the bearish side has decreased slightly, but still high nonetheless. It's at 56.9% for this week versus previous week at 58.8%. So slight decrease, but still pretty massively increased versus historical average at 31%. Now, in terms of the technical side, I'm looking at ETF SPY, ETF for the S&P 500. It's currently at $520 and a couple cents. And this dates back, if you've been on my channel before, since 2010. So an upward trend resistance level dating back since 2010, upward trend support level dating back since 2010, and then two major crashes dating back since 2010 as well. Will this line hold? We'll see. I'm still covering it day by day or not day by day, but basically week by week until we get to these milestones and see if we will get to this level for a major crash as well. And coincidentally, it's hitting the 100-day moving average as well in line the whole entire time. So I'm pretty sure this line will hold if we ever get a major crash, but we'll see till that. But right now, for the time being, and I believe this is the all chart anyway. Yeah, this is the all chart. If we go to the 5-year chart right about here, you can see we pretty much hit it, even the 1-year chart too, I believe. Let me see more detailed zoom in. Let me close this a little bit too. You can see we hit that upward trend support level as we did back in, when was this? Of October of 2023, and we did bounce off it. There was a couple times too, obviously in the past. Like I said, this was upward trend support level, and the question is, are we actually heading up now? Even though we're getting a little bit headwinds, for example, the market, for give or take right now for the S&P, down about 1.3%, the NASDAQ about down 1.5, 1.6%, Dow Jones about down 1.1, 1.2%, give or take. The VIX is up about 10%, so at 32.51. So are we actually going to be this legitimate bounce, and then we're just getting a little bit headwinds? It almost looks like to be so if you're looking at the S&P 500, right? The downfall is if you're looking at not necessarily the NASDAQ, but the Dow Jones. Dow Jones are showing more downside to come. In my opinion, and I'm going to show more of the indications and all that stuff and as to the reason why. But in my opinion, because of the pause of the tariffs and the 90 days and all that stuff, I would say we're pretty much going to get headwinds until the 90 days pause clears, and then more clearance and or more indications of what's going to happen is more clear, if that makes sense. So first, for the S&P, again, the S&P is kind of showing more of a bounce, but the Dow Jones, once I get to that, it's going to show more clear the downside pull. So that's why it's almost like a 50-50 of what's going to happen. Is the market essentially going to follow more of the S&P, which is more of the 500 conglomerate of companies, or is it going to follow more of the Dow Jones, which is 30 major companies, right? But we'll see. So first, the 1-year chart, you can see right here, MACD line indicates if it's a bearish or bullish movement. Right now, for the time being, you could argue it is in the bullish movement, but it looks like it's going to curve down to the bearish side. So downside coming, hypothetically. And then here's the 5-year chart. We are in the bearish movement, but it looks like it could be arching up, hitting the 100-day moving average of the 5-year chart. And then the all chart is the downside technically, or not technically, the bearish movement all as well to the downside. The only thing is though, hypothetically, in a way, these could be small headwinds, and then you could follow the 5-year chart and ultimately at one point arch up and fully bounce up and not coming back down to this upward trend support level dating back since 2010. And then in a way, NASDAQ almost supports that as well, because the NASDAQ is in the same ballpark. So I'm looking at ETF QQQ, ETF for NASDAQ, same thing, just different ratio as well. And here's the 5-year chart, identical to the S&P, and it's at the 100-day moving average as well. And it could be primed to moving up as well overall. but I don't think that will be the case once we look at the Dow Jones, and I'm going to show that soon. But first, 1 year chart, same like S&P, bullish sentiment, or not bullish sentiment, but bullish MAC line in terms of movement, but it's going to look like it's going to come down to the bearish sentiment or bearish movement as well soon. And then the alt chart, it's not a guarantee by the way, but it most likely will be, it looks like. And then the alt chart, same thing in the bearish movement, and it looks like it's going to be potentially continuation, right? Now the NASDAQ does have the same thing as the S&P, where it has an upward trend, upward trend resistance, and upward trend support level dating back since 2010, right about here, and then right about here as well, support, resistance, dating back since 2010. It's pretty impressive as well, especially for the resistance side, I would say, because this is clean resistance dating back since 2010. Mind you, the market was still going up. It doesn't mean that its market's not going up. For example, prime example, dating back since early of 2014 all the way to end of 2015, market was still going up. It was just underneath the resistance level. Obviously, we had breakouts dating back since 2020 to 2022, but it bounced off its support as well at times. And this is where we're at right now. So technically more downside could be coming, but not necessarily so. There's not 100%, like for example, there's been times we bounced off and all stuff, but we don't have to necessarily go to it fully, even though, like for example, this was a clean drop as well. So clean, massive drop right here, bouncing off support, but then there's times we're at mid zones. So we are like mid zone, a little bit lower and all stuff. So we don't necessarily have to get to that level. But the thing is though, now if you look at the Dow Jones, here's what it is. So for the Dow Jones, we are approaching 200-day moving average, but let me see which one is this. So first on the 1 year chart, before I get to that 200-day moving average, the 1 year chart, it's a strong pretty much indication to downside because MACD line has crossed the bearish movement and it looks like it's pretty strong, more downsides to come. The 5 year chart, bearish movement, it actually got stronger versus the S&P and NASDAQ and pretty much got rejected by the 100-day moving average of the 5 year chart. So technically, ultimately, it looks like it's heading back down to the 200-day moving average of the 5 year chart. Now, there are some support levels that we can bounce off of ultimately. The only problem is pair this 5 year chart with the MACD line of the bearish movement to the downside with the alt chart of the downside bearish movement, pretty much just like the S&P and NASDAQ, essentially looks like it not just got started, but it has more room to the downside based off the beginning of the bearish movement for the L chart, then technically more headwinds could be coming. And you could argue we might bounce off the 50-day moving average, but how strong the Dow Jones is, mind you, we're at 38,644 points, give or take for the time being, then it might be, unless things happen. Obviously, big news, big events could shift the market to the upside or downside in massive way regardless. So it depends on what news or headwinds come our way. But for the time being, it looks like if you were looking at just the technicals, then the Dow Jones could be hitting the 100-day moving average of the alt chart, potentially. So that's the thing. But even the, let me see, 5 year, yeah. So 200-day moving average, I'll just give you guys the numbers just in case. So 200-day moving average of the 5 year chart for the Dow Jones is looking at 36,274 points. And then for the alt chart for the 100-day moving average, you're looking at first the 50-day moving average. I'll cover that because we're pretty much on it. Is 36,163 points. And then for the 100-day moving average at 30,714 points. So there's that. But we'll see for the time being what will happen. And in case for the S&P you're curious about the upward trend support level dating back since 2010, the 1 year chart is a little bit more zoomed in closer to it. Right now, again, SPY ETF for SP500, we're at $519. And then if you're expecting support at this upward trend support level dating back since 2010, you're looking at ballpark about $480, give or take. Now my lines are not perfect, so that's why I would say ballpark about $480, give or take. But again, if the Dow Jones is predominantly going to pull us down, but at the same time, this support level has held quite a bit for, I'll show you again. Actually, no, there is the major crash. I forgot about it. I thought this was the NASDAQ. But in terms of NASDAQ, that support level has held quite a bit. But we still have the major crash time frame. But I don't expect with this administration to have that major crash, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. I'm not a professional, so please do own due diligence and research before buying and selling. But if you look at the NASDAQ, the only time we've got lower than the support level was dating back since 2008. And then, well, actually not even 2008. There's times we were below it. So 2002, 2001, and then 2008. But ever since we've been with this channel, we haven't dropped lower than it. And that level is looking at ETF QQQ, currently at $436. Ballpark with the line, depending on when we meet it, you're looking at $350, give or take. In terms of economic calendar, just the detailed events. Monday, April 21st, we have U.S. leading economic indicators for the month of March. Tuesday, April 22nd, Philadelphia Fed President Patrick Harker speaks. Minneapolis Fed President Neel Kashkari speaks. Richmond Fed President Barkin speaks. And then on Wednesday, we have April 23rd, we have Chicago Fed President Austan Goolsbee opening remarks. St. Louis Fed President Alberton, Musalem, and Fed Governor Christopher Weller speak. S&P flashed U.S. Service PMI. S&P flashed U.S. Manufacturing PMI. New home sales, Fed Beige Book. Atlanta Fed President Bostic speaks. Cleveland Fed President Beth Hammack speaks. And then Thursday, April 24th, we have initial jobless claims, durable goods orders, core durable orders, business and investments, existing home sales. Minneapolis Fed President Neel Kashkari speaks. And then on Friday, April 25th, we have consumer sentiment for the month of April. And that's basically it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like it. If you found it beneficial, consider dropping a like. It does help with the channel, so thank you so much for that. I do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I do post these weekly. Thanks again for watching. Take care. God bless and peace.